Hello, this is Chris Lee, joined by Blake Lovell of Southeastern 16, here to preview Vanderbilt's NCAA tournament game with St. Mary's. You can catch that on Friday, 2:15 Central, Tru TV. If you're watching in person, that's in Cleveland. Vandy, the 10 seed, St. Mary's, the 7 seed. Vanderbilt making the tournament for the first time in a bit. St. Mary's feels like a tournament staple. Randy Bennett's got another good team that's slow paced, and the predictive metrics love the Gales. Had a nice season. Blake, how do we initially size up this matchup between the two teams, which I think the spread is maybe hovering around 4 or 3.5 this morning, and the predictives are in that range, maybe a point or two off.
Yeah, I mean, again, Vanderbilt's a team not many people thought would get here. They did, and, kind of been a tale of, I don't even know what you call this tale over the past month. They lost three in a row, they won three in a row, now they've lost three in a row again. But they also play one of the toughest schedules in the country, probably second or third behind, I don't know if it was Alabama, Oklahoma, something like that, since really the start of February, even earlier than that, probably. I mean, they played a really tough schedule, and that was the case for a lot of SEC teams. But I feel like the thing we talked about all season long, the size and all those things could be a disadvantage for Vanderbilt, but it really wasn't as big of a deal overall. I think that some people may have expected it to be. So yeah, they're here though, and they've got a coach that's had some success with taking that James Madison team first round win last year against Wisconsin, and then of course we know Randy Bennett has had success at St. Mary's. When you just look at the way they play, I mean, once again, no surprise here. They're a great defensive team per the numbers. And they do a lot of those little things pretty well. Good rebounding team because they do have size. And I think, again, that will probably be something that a lot of people look at in this game when it comes to just the size matchup between these two. But yeah, it's a fun game. I think two really good sort of schematic type coaches that run their stuff. They know what they want to do and know how they need to win, and sets up for a fun 7-10 matchup here.
St. Mary's doesn't play its bench a lot, but it's got 8 quality players. I'm going to give you the names to watch, probably in order that you need to watch them. Augustus Marshallonis, dad was an NBA player, 65th in Evan Mize Player of the Year rankings, the West Coast Conference Player of the Year, 3 assists to turnovers, shoots it well everywhere. Mitchell Saxon, the Defensive Player of the Year in the league, number 15 in Evan Mia's rankings. Big guy underneath who could give Vanderbilt issues. Luke Barrett, their leader in minutes, 1,203 minutes this year. Fifth-year senior, great rebounder. I would also watch Mikey Lewis, a freshman combo guard, who's a big scorer when he's on the floor and a 39% three-point shooter. Harry Wessels, 7'1" reserve. Vanderbilt has struggled with height. He could give them some issues. Last guys to watch, Paulius Morauskas, I think is how you pronounce it. Arizona transfer, high scorer and rebounder when he's on the floor. And also watch out for Ashton Hardaway, Penny's kid, and Jordan Ross, who's their backup ball handler. Not much of a scorer, but gives them depth. This is a team, Blake, that wants to play slow, is number 8 in the country in adjusted defensive efficiency, but maybe not quite as great an offensive team as we have seen some of Randy Bennett's groups in the past.
Well, they just don't shoot it as well. I mean, there's just a big difference in terms of the 3-point shooting, and I feel like that is, you go back to his last 3 seasons, they're 104, 71, 71 in 3-point percentage nationally. This year, they're 231. Like, they're shooting about 32.6%. And so that is a big difference because, like, I mean, think back to some of the teams that we were like, okay, those teams had some success. Like, they could do it by shooting the three. I mean, he's had how many top 5, top 15-ish type 3-point shooting teams over the years. This just isn't one of them. But that's okay because even when they miss shots, they're a really good rebounding team, and they get 40.5% offensive rebounding rate. That is just a pretty remarkable number. We all know who is the best at the country at that, Chris, the fellow SEC team, Texas A&M. But St. Mary's is pretty good at this, and I think that's going to be something, like we said, when it comes to the size for Vanderbilt. I mean, the basics, boxing out, the fundamental basketball is going to be the thing that wins this game probably, and that's the one area that I think for me I look at, and that's got to be a big focus here for them because it is different for St. Mary's playing an SEC team in Vanderbilt, who again has seen a lot of these just physical, bumping around every single possession type games in the SEC, especially when you get to the front court, and so I think they'll kind of be ready for that. But the one thing I think, for this, St. Mary's, as usual, seemingly does a good job taking care of the ball. And I think if Vanderbilt's going to win this game, they've got to find a way to turn them over because otherwise we know kind of the pace of this game. Vanderbilt wants to get up and down, get out in transition, space everybody out. St. Mary's going to come down and just be methodical in terms of how they beat you. So I think Vanderbilt's got to disrupt some things with their defense. If they don't, I think it's trouble.
Yeah, a lot of Vanderbilt's early season success was predicated on forcing open court turnovers and getting easy layups at the other end of the floor. They still did that some in conference play, but the numbers dropped off markedly once Vanderbilt got into the league. Stuff I'm watching in no particular order, Jason Edwards. Well, this could be first. Jason Edwards is a big-time scorer. Not a big guy. They list him at 6'1". He's not that, I don't think. Slightly built, but can get his shot off cat quick. A.J. Hogard, Michigan State transfer, who's their point guard. Not a very good shooter, not a great finisher, but is a good assist guy. Vandy's bigs, I think, are key here. Jalen Carey usually comes off the bench. Devin McLaughlin usually starts, and a super efficient player. Those guys, however, just 6'8" and 6'7", respectively, and also both got in foul trouble. Wild card for Vanderbilt could be Tyler Nickel. He is a 41% three-point shooter and shot his best probably the last, 4 to 6 weeks of the season. He can hit 6 or 7 threes in a game and change the outcome just like that. And finally, Chris Magnon, super defender, energy guy for them, 6'5", also gets in foul trouble. And maybe one last note of importance. We talked about St. Mary's doesn't use its bench as much. Vanderbilt does use its bench a lot. And it was out two of its key players late in the season, M.J. Collins and Grant Huffman. They're both role players, but were important to what Vanderbilt did. So I think the big thing I'm watching here, Blake, is just how does Vanderbilt handle height, and can it get Edwards and Nickel going?
Well, they're going to have to get those guys with big games. I don't think there's any question about it. And like you said, I think the height, they've seen it a lot in the SEC, so maybe that kind of gets them prepared for it. I think, the one thing people I've seen sort of in the previous, Vanderbilt didn't play a tough non-conference schedule. Well, I think the SEC schedule more than made up for that. And they've seen a lot of tough teams over the past little bit. So I don't really buy into that theory that just because they didn't play a great non-conference schedule, they won't be ready for a game like this. I think this one's fascinating for a lot of reasons because I think these two teams need to win in different ways. And like I said, Vanderbilt, I think, has to force turnovers. St. Mary's, such a good, just, rock solid defensive team. They know what they do well. They don't allow you, again, to get second chance opportunities because they are such a good rebounding team, and just the pace, right? And that's where I think Vanderbilt's got to sort of play at the pace they want to get out and go, as you said. I mean, just getting out in transition, getting some of those, turnovers out in open space, that's going to be the key here. So, yeah, this is a matchup I've gone back and forth on a lot in terms of, these 7-10s, which makes sense. That's why these teams are seated where they are, but this isn't an easy one.
All right, let's do picks. I'll go first. Vanderbilt struggled a lot against height and didn't finish the season well. Now, some of that was not having a couple of key guys off the bench, but St. Mary's has just been in this spot more, a little bit more used to being in the tournament. Randy Bennett, a terrific coach. Mark Byington is too, by the way. I think Vanderbilt's really a year ahead of schedule. And I'm not going to sit here and say Vanderbilt's just happy to be here because those guys want to win. But I feel like it's just an accomplishment for Vanderbilt to be in this spot. St. Mary's has got a little bit more program pedigree and guys that have been there and accomplished a little bit more. And I'll ride with that in a game where everything suggests it should be pretty close.
Yeah, I don't have a great feel on this game. So no matter where my pick goes, I would not bet it just because I don't have a great sense for this one. But I do think, again, St. Mary's just they do a lot of things well, and even though the issue may be that they just are not shooting it as well as we're used to seeing with this kind of team, I think the fact that they have done a good job of taking care of the ball, and they've got some pretty again talented big men that I think can have a pretty good game here. I'm going to pick them too, but I don't have a lot of confidence in that choice because I do think Vanderbilt's the kind of team that everyone's going to look at and say, they just kind of got here based on, kind of overachieving, and maybe this is where, the luck sort of runs out. I don't know if I completely buy that because I think they're more than capable of winning this game, but I'm gonna pick St. Mary's. But if you want to pick anything when it comes to these games, do it with our friends at Bracket Bids. For those games get started on Thursday, head over there into that free pick 'em contest. You can start that auction draft league. Check it out for league play. Use that promo code SC16 for 40% off. SC16 40% off. Download the Bracket Bids app today or visit them at bracketbids.com.
All right. Thank you for watching our hoops content here at Southeastern 16. We will be predicting every outcome of every game every SEC team plays in the tournament. Hit that subscribe button to get that and enable your notifications so you see when we have a video up. We'll also be recapping all these when they're done. Thanks for watching. For Blake Lovell, I'm Chris Lee. God bless you. We'll see you again soon at Southeastern 16.